At Kings Island's Halloween Haunt, monsters aren't the only things generating screams. There's also some of your favorite rides. Hello, everyone. I'm Don Helbig alongside Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics. Tower Topics is the podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Ryan,
Yes.
Halloween Haunt,
Mm.
it's more than just the monsters and the scare zones and the mazes.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite parts of Halloween Haunt is getting to ride the rides at night. Especially with how
Mhm.
early it gets or how late it gets dark during the summer and how they kind of took away a lot of the midnight closes that we had in years past. You don't really have a whole lot of opportunities to, get your Beast Night ride. So this is a really good opportunity to do that.
It is, and when you look at Kings Island and the portfolio of rides, it has some of the best night rides out there.
Hmm.
It starts with the Beast, but you also have Orion, Diamondback, Mystic Timbers, terrific night ride. The Racer's great at night. Um, and then they got the sleeper ride to me, the one that no one really thinks about, Adventure Express. That's another phenomenal night ride. And then you put on top of that, when the fog kind of hangs and especially as you get into the fall later and it gets a little bit colder, it just kind of hangs there. It just really creates a different type of ride experience than what you're going to get in the spring or summer.
I agree. I would say that the best fall night ride, as far as like a three-dimensional effect, is probably Banshee because you get that like chill at the very back of the ride when you're down in the valley, and it's just for a second, and it's like a very Halloweeny kind of scary feel to it, which is really cool. Recently they've been putting fog machines on some of the rides. Like they have a fog machine on the Beast this year, so you go down the first hill through the tunnel, make the left, and then they have this blinding fog, which is just the coolest effect. I love that they do that, and I know it's very difficult to do that. My understanding is that the fog can mess with the sensors and ghost trains and stuff like that. So I'm glad they were able to figure out where to do it and how to do it in a manner which won't affect the operation of the ride. But that's really cool. What's your favorite besides the Beast? What's your favorite like Halloween like fall time night ride?
After it debuted, I would have to go with Mystic Timbers,
Okay.
but I thought, Banshee was up there. I thought that was one of the better ones, and then Adventure Express.
Probably one of the coolest ride experiences I've ever had was, this is probably 6, 7 years ago. I was riding Diamondback, and we go down the first hill, and we go up the second hill, and we're about to go down, and all you can see is, like, cloud below you because all the fog, so you couldn't see the bottom of the hill. It's actually a very similar effect to Orion at night, just the way that they have that decorative uplighting placed. If you're in the front row, you can't see the bottom of the first hill, and I think that's, like, just the coolest thing ever.
One of the things that I see a lot of debate about, Ryan, is which one's the better night ride, Diamondback or Orion?
Mhm.
In your opinion, which one is?
I would say with the fog, Diamondback, without the fog, Orion. Just because of the reasons that I listed above, where the fog often collects back behind Madame Fatales, and if you're dipping into the fog and you can't see the bottom, that's just the coolest effect ever. But you get like a mini version of that effect every night on Orion. Like I mentioned, if you're facing down the hill, you can't see the bottom because you're blinded by some of the uplighting, and it's just blacks out the bottom of the hill, which is a really, really cool visual.
One of the things that, from the time, I started working there in 2007, through today, looking at social media, and that is the question that always comes up: are the rides open during Halloween Haunt? Why do you think it is, you know, this many years later that that's still one of the most frequently asked questions?
That's a good question. Not the question as to whether or not the rides are open. Most of them are, to answer your question. But I think that maybe if people haven't gone, they may think that it's just haunted houses and shows. I mean, honestly, I'm willing to venture a guess to say that most of them don't really associate shows with it. It's probably people just think it's haunted houses. But to settle the debate, obviously, Planet Snoopy's closed for the vast majority of the haunt time, and the water rides, as pleasant as they would be to ride on a crisp fall evening at 11 o'clock, they're not open. Um,
Right, but it's yeah, it just was always one of the things to me that that was the number one question that I got the most was just are the rides open? And I think it's a phenomenal time, to visit the park, if you're a ride fan, because everyone else, especially when the event first starts, they're out in the midways, they're trying to experience the mazes and the scare zones, and take advantage of their dining plans, and that leaves the rides, wide open, where you're going to have minimal wait time, especially the early hours of hot nights.
Early hours and extremely late hours. So to be clear to anybody that doesn't know, and I imagine if you listen to this podcast, you do. Sometimes the ride lines are very, very long on hot nights, like the longest of the season. But as Don mentioned, if you're going right at 6 o'clock, or if you're going like especially after 11, you can get some great night rides with minimal wait times, and that's just really fantastic. It's you have very few opportunities to ride after 10 o'clock at night. You got Coaster Stock and you got Fourth of July, but this is your time to do it, to get those night rides in, especially the Beast. The Beast is elusive now because not only do they close at 10 almost exclusively during the summer, but they shut it down for the fireworks too. So for one, the ride shut down, so that kind of interferes with stuff. And for two, you have to choose between getting your last ride on the Beast and seeing the fireworks show. And with how good the fireworks shows have been, it's kind of hard not to watch that, you know? So for me, I only get a couple Beast night rides a year, and it's usually this time of year.
There's a few nights that Halloween Haunt is open on Sunday nights. I did one of those nights last year, and I was able to get in 9 rides on the Beast
Hmm.
in an hour and a half.
Yes.
And they were some of the best Beast rides I've ever had. I mean, the ride was just flying through the woods. A little bit of fog, a little bit of mist was out there. Just a great night.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed, and there's somebody that's going to be a ride mechanic or an engineer that's going to crucify me for this. It's okay. But I've noticed, in my opinion, that if it's hot during the day and then it's cold at night, it seems like it runs faster. Like it could be entirely psychological, but that's why I think the best rides are during the haunt time, because during the day in the Cincinnati market, I mean, it can get upwards of 80 degrees. It gets to be 11 o'clock at night and maybe 40. So, something about that temperature variation at least makes the ride feel like it's going faster. But, yeah, it's like on Sunday nights, if it's Sundays last year weren't terribly busy. There were definitely people there. It was definitely a success, but you weren't looking at a 90-minute wait time for the Beast, which is
Mhm.
just a fantastic opportunity to get those night rides in. I think that's so cool that they have that going on. That's a really good gift to the people, the Sunday
Yeah,
nights.
and the racer, another one of those roller coasters that it seems as it gets later at night, it's gonna, feels a lot faster than it does during the day,
Yeah.
and especially during the haunt season. So you're gonna get some great night rides as well on the racer.
I completely agree. I think the Racer is a fantastic night ride. The beauty of the Racer nowadays is that you really get to experience the chaos involved in the ride, since it's had that gravity
Mhm.
group retracking. So up and down, and the ride just crashes in on itself and stuff, and it's not painful. You're not defending yourself
Mhm.
anymore, but you just feel the sensation of just out of control. And I think it's the way that John Allen kind of designed it to be. So yeah, night rides superb on the Racer, especially now.
Yeah, and a lot of people would also ask me, how does Kings Island always rank high in those industry polls for the Halloween event? Because it's certainly not on the level that you're going to see at Universal,
Hmm.
but still very good with what they do with the mazes and the monsters and the scare zones and the shows. But it always looked back to me to the rides as being part of that experience. That when you're looking at what's the best Halloween event, you got to take the full package, and that includes the rides. And it's very difficult in a nighttime environment to beat the ride lineup that Kings Island has.
Kings Island is the best night ride park I've ever been to. You've been to more parks than me. Would you agree with that, or can you think of anything that sits anywhere near it?
Collectively, yes. When you're looking at the night rides that Kings Island has, and there's a lot of difficult choices.
Right?
What's going to be your final ride that you're going to ride at night? It doesn't stay open till midnight, so I mean you're limited on what you can do. But yeah, for the number of rides that you can do at night at Kings Island, I don't think there's any other park that comes close to touching it. Some of those other parks they have great rides, but they're still kind of the same ride at night as they are during the day. But when you look at the Beast, two different kind of ride experiences. Mystic Timbers, two kind of different ride experiences. To a degree, the Racers, two different ride experiences. Banshee, certainly two different ride experiences for between night and day. So when you look at all of that, and you look at the park being open till midnight for Halloween Haunt, if you're a fan of riding roller coasters at night, that's the time to go. Halloween Haunt at Kings Island.
I agree, and I would even argue that you can take any one of maybe 5 rides at Kings Island. So if you look at them, let's say the Beast is obviously one, Diamondback, let's say Racer, Orion, and Banshee. Let's just put those. We're taking out Adventure Express, even though that's a hidden gem. Take any one of those against any other night ride, and there are very few rides that can stack up against any one of them. One of them that comes to mind is the Voyage. You rarely get to ride that when
Yeah.
it's dark out, though. You know, they're rarely
Yeah,
up in
but
that lane.
that's a great night ride. And I'll tell you another one that is a hidden gem at night, and that's a Thunderbolt at Kennywood.
Oh yeah, I've ridden that at night. That's fantastic. That whole park, that's a great night park too. But that's a night park in terms of like it feels like an old school Coney Island boardwalk more so than it does like thrilling night rides. Although, I mean, I rode the Thunderbolt at night, but I imagine that like Phantom's Revenge is probably awesome at night. But yeah, I completely agree. I would say Kennywood might be up there. That could probably duke it out with Kings Island. Um,
That's really about it.
Yeah, that's the only one that comes to mind. We'd love to hear everybody else's opinion. Tweet us at tower_topics and let us know if you think that there's any park that sits on the same shelf or even beats Kings Island as far as best night ride collection. We'd love to hear it. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, so Halloween Haunt's open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays, select nights through October, and then Sundays I think they're open until 11. So fantastic time to ride. All right. Well, I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.